Thank Nashville SC and Geodis Park for hosting us this morning. I don't think we had anyone reach out for public comment today according to our Open Meetings Act. So the first item on the agenda will be consideration of approval of the minutes from the April 16th, 2024 meeting. You should have received the minutes. And so I will entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay, and our minutes are approved. As you probably noticed, we have a very special guest with us today. We're going to hear on the transit talk from Mayor O'Connell. And so we're happy to have you with us. On behalf of the Sports Authority, we appreciate the support of the authority, of our executive director, and the mission of this authority. With that, I would like to invite you up for some comments.
Well, thank you, and I think our administration will be well represented today because not only am I joined by Michael Briggs, who is our Director of Transportation Planning, I think you all also have a presentation on your agenda from Bob Mendez, our Chief Development Officer, so thank you for the opportunity to be with you. We know that with the success of Nashville's sports economy and the public entertainment facilities that are a part of that, we've seen an increasing both interest in and necessity for access to sites exactly like this one. And so one of the things that has been a point of demand in the community, but also something we've been able to make some limited progress on, including this year's availability of free WeGo service to home Nashville SC games. We know that as we have continued to see sports events, but also major events at sites like Bridgestone Arena, Nissan Stadium, we need to make more progress more quickly. And so excited to have the opportunity to talk with you all today about a proposed transportation improvement program that we now have formally in front of the Metro Council. If they approve it, it will be headed to the Davidson County Election Commission, ideally for scheduling as a November 5th referendum for us to consider dedicated funding for that program. So we have some slides. I don't know if we can get those up on the screen here. There we go. Great. And the program is called Choose How You Move. So everybody understands this is a program that really is a comprehensive transportation improvement program. We know, again, sites like Geodis, the fairgrounds, even with a 100-year plus history in the city, we have not always succeeded in delivering infrastructure. So this is not a bus-only plan. This is a comprehensive transportation improvement program. It focuses on 4 key principles: sidewalks, signals, service, and safety. They're all key elements of the program. So we'll take you through a few details, and happy to have either myself or Michael available to answer any questions. We'll see which of these takes us forward. Let's see if this one, maybe this one. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not sure I'm doing anything useful here. So you can see where we are. I think you all, as a sports authority, have seen a lot of the success. Not only have we had a vibrant downtown, including one that led the recovery post-pandemic, you know that our airport continues to bring people here, and as we have major sports events, everything from the NHL All-Star Game to more recently the Premier League morning series, there is a lot of interest in this, but it's coupled with Nashville's overall trajectory for growth. You can see that's also true for residents choosing either Nashville or Middle Tennessee at increasing rates, and continuing to show up in how people looking at our overall availability of land see Nashville for 3 years running an unprecedented performance in the Urban Land Institute's recognition. So I'm going to try one more time here to see if I can click anything. Oh, something happened. Nothing good. Oh. Okay. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. So now, how do I go forward? Maybe this? I don't know. You want to see? Anybody know which one of these? This doesn't go.
Oh, that's not it.
This is not connected to that. That one will take me. Oh, here we go. I think I know. Ah, there we go.
Okay.
All right. The downside of the growth is the challenges it brings with us, but I'd still feel like, for me, living in a growing city, we continue to see more interesting things. It's been amazing to bring our daughters here to see the U.S. women's national team play, but we also know that growth, especially coupled with some of our lack of investment in transportation infrastructure, has left us with that top headline where Nashville is ranked as the U.S. city with the worst commute. This is coupled with some more data we saw just this week showing that Nashvillians spend more time in their cars than most other major American metros. And then similarly, we see challenges with cost of living. We think that with the work that we've done on the East Bank, I know that this authority has been deeply involved with Bob Mendez's efforts there as we plan for and have begun construction on the new stadium for the Titans. But we came into office knowing we had to tackle these challenges of how our local government interacts with growth. Our capital spending plan included items not just for the East Bank, but countywide investments intended to address a lot of these problems, but deal with neighborhood scale. We're arriving here at the first Metro Business Day after the Juneteenth holiday, where we had unanimous support for our fiscal year 25 operating budget, which includes in it significant investment, not just in affordable housing, but also the bedrocks of schools and safety, trying to make sure that as one-time federal funding diminishes, and we have had successful program implementation that we consider that, but now the fourth big project for the year is in front of us, and that's this transportation improvement program. We think this will be one of the fastest ways that we can improve access, including to the resources that you all interact with every day, but it's also going to be a key tool for affordability for Nashvillians. And it does some very important things from a policy perspective. If you all have followed the work of NDOT as they have evolved from what was our old Public Works Department, they have for years maintained a strategic plan for sidewalks and bikeways. More recently, as Nashville has committed to Vision Zero, hitting an unfortunate moment in 2022 when we lost more pedestrians to traffic fatality than any other year in Metro's history, just for people trying to cross the street. We have looked at a high injury network as part of the Vision Zero process. And if we are successful in having enough voters support this program, we will be able to complete our entire priority sidewalk network over the 15-year capital investment period in the program. This is what dedicated funding and long-term opportunities offer, is the ability to have predictability for things like our sidewalk network. Historically, we've only been able to add about 6 miles a year with our year-over-year capital project approach. This would let us have decades of continuous development and combine it with that year-over-year approach to make much more progress. We'll get into it a little bit more. I think one of the most important elements in this is that it's got something for everybody. This program will allow us to upgrade fully 2/3 of our signalized intersections in the city, meaning that the intersections themselves not only know where our traffic is, but beyond just a single intersection, they will know as a network, they will be able to respond to that traffic, and after a Nashville SC game, after a Preds game, after a Titans game, be able to get those crowds back home and get employees to where they're trying to get to as well. And then perhaps most importantly, in a city that is increasingly, even at some of our major sports events and destinations, operating well outside a 9-to-5 commute pattern, we are a healthcare and hospitality city. The 3-shift workforce that we need to support currently does not have access to transit options. And what this plan is about and why it's called Choose How You Move is we are trying to ensure that people have options that meet them where they live, at whatever their wages are, and frankly offers more financial empowerment, offers ongoing workforce development, offers ongoing opportunities for economic development. So again, we think this is an affordability tool. We think it is an economic development tool, and being able to have, as a top 25 American city, finally access to 24/7, 365 transit service is a big deal. And then finally, we think this will improve safety for all users, not only with technology and safety personnel within WEGO and NDOT, but also as we make our intersections safer, as we make our roadways safer for all users. We think we will be able to reduce safety issues within the system, but also improve roadway safety across the board. And as I said, it will be up to the city as a whole to make this decision November 5th. We had first reading on the Metro Council of the ordinance that would put ballot language in front of voters in November. We expect council to dig in, but we are very encouraged and excited that as we filed this legislation, 32 members of the 40-member body are already signed on as co-sponsors. We know that doesn't mean automatic yes vote, but usually when you see this level of sponsorship for something in the Metro Council, it means there is not only considerable interest, but typically considerable support. So coming back to the sidewalks element here, this offers 86 miles of sidewalk improvement. That is enough to pave sidewalks from here to Cookeville. We will not be paving sidewalks from here to Cookeville, but we will be putting them in neighborhoods. We will be connecting communities to the small business corridors, the public assets, sites exactly like this. And it doesn't necessarily mean a sidewalk in every neighborhood. If you live in a neighborhood right now that's multiple blocks without sidewalk, the likeliest thing you're going to see is connection to corridors like this or completion of sidewalks along corridors like this. But you can see in this image somebody walking on what is also often known as a cow path along an area that is a busy corridor. And you can see traffic is flowing here, but there is clearly a community of people that want a choice to be able to walk along this corridor, and that is what this program provides. I mentioned the entire priority sidewalk network. For reference, last year we constructed 6.5 miles of sidewalk, and so being able to operate at that pace and then supplement that with the program opportunities is a big deal. That's how we get that entire priority sidewalk network done. With our signals right now today, I don't know if we have audio here, it doesn't look like it, but this would play the sound of dial-up modems, and I am old enough, sadly, to remember that sound quite clearly, but we have signals that have not had any technology upgrades. Some of them, if they are part of a network, really do connect by dial-up modem. Some are completely unnetworked. And what we want is to be able to join the ranks of the smart cities where traffic flows more effectively. Ultimately, that too, when you are not frustrated by waiting for more red lights and our entire city catches more green lights, not only is it a way for us to reclaim days, weeks, and months back into our lives that we are able to spend doing anything other than sitting at a red light, it also means that the roadways become safer. So again, 2/3 of our countywide traffic signal intersections would get this upgrade. And then when it comes to that 24/7, 365 service, we've got 54 miles of corridors that are going to get full treatment that resembles something like what you see here, where motorists have total opportunity to move around the city. There is transit access, including stops with increased rider dignity and safety and lighting. And then the signals in the picture would be fully networked. And not only would motorists take advantage of that, transit vehicles would interact with that technology as well. We would have a dozen community transit centers like the one that is already open at Hillsborough High School, the one that is about to open in North Nashville at the Rip Patton Transit Center, 17 park and rides as regional touch points, along with some new express service. Plenty of things in this program for all Nashvillians. We think that, again, with safety embedded in this program, the upgraded bus stops, the redesigned intersections, the complete streets approach means that everybody on our public rights of way will ultimately be safer. And you can see the difference here. Whereas the woman with the stroller was pictured in a makeshift path, this is the kind of thing that, as we have implemented better choices around the city, you see an immediate uptick in pedestrian activity, and that is because people want to be able to walk safely around their neighborhood, as opposed to areas where you sometimes get off the bus right onto a shoulder or into a ditch. And this is part of something that I've experienced as a former regular transit commuter. We know how important this is from a cost of living standpoint. You can see what our housing costs are for both renters and owners on different data sets. We have had costs steadily marching upward. And for most households, the top two costs are the raw cost of housing and the cost of transportation. If we can bring the cost of transportation down sharply for tens of thousands of Nashvillians in basically one major decision, we have suddenly increased access to the city. Right now today, if you live within a quarter mile of our limited transit system, you are spending $200 a year less on transportation than other households. And if we can expand the number of people enjoying that cost savings dramatically, then we know that that is less of a pain point for Nashvillians as we continue to grow. This is not something Michael and I invented out of whole cloth as soon as we took office. This is based on a decade of deep transportation planning experience both within and outside of Metro, multiple points of community input. And we have more than 66,000 points of engagement with the community, and we know that the focus here is driving down the cost of living. We think we've got the cost right in addition to the design of the plan with a sales tax surcharge that brings us into alignment with surrounding counties. Most of this will actually be paid for by non-residents, and for most households, the cost will be about $6 per month. So if you walked into Target or Kroger and spent $50, you'd be putting a quarter in the jar to pay for this plan. Part of our intent here was to take that expertise in the planning side and be able to implement very quickly. We want to see things in the very first year. So if voters approve this in November, by the following November, we should start to see enhancements to WeGo service. We will see some initial sidewalk development, and we will see the first phases of traffic signal improvements. By year two, you'll see sharply expanded bus service hours and frequency, and some of the first infrastructure projects delivered. Within the first 5 years, you'll see hundreds of signalized intersections upgraded, and some of those first complete corridors began a higher capacity of service for transit with supporting infrastructure. And then by the year 15, looking out into the future, being able to predict and plan this with revenue that you know is dedicated to it means that we can complete all of the major capital projects within 15 years. So you can learn more at nashville.gov/transit. We don't want to take too much of your agenda, but Michael and I are happy to answer any questions. Thank you to the members of the authority for your service and your willingness to have us be able to share this information with you today.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor?
Great report. Thank you. Every question I was thinking about, you continue to answer it with your slide. I was just curious as to how the sidewalks will be dispersed around the city. I'm a resident of Antioch, and so just curious to know, is there some type of formula, or do those 66,000 pieces of data inform you as to where these sidewalks are going to go?
Very much so. I'm going to let Michael jump in on some of the implementation details here, but that data, from Southeast Nashville, it's been one of the fastest growing parts of the city for several years. It's also got some infrastructure challenges, but we can talk about this. A lot of our sidewalk development here is focused on those areas that have chronically lacked infrastructure investment, including Southeast Nashville, including parts of North Nashville. Again, I know, in a neighborhood like Sylvan Park or parts of the Nations where they are fairly dense, this program may not put a sidewalk in every block there, but if you've got a major corridor in Antioch that's been programmed for a long time and just has not been able to catch the funding, this should be able to complete major corridors. And I'll let Michael add some context.
Yeah, if you go to the website, there's an interactive map where you can see the program sidewalks for it. What you will see, because it relies on the state enabling legislation, the monies for this program have to be tied to transit. So you'll see the sidewalks on the main pikes and connecting from neighborhoods to many of the main pikes or corridors.
But The intention here too is there should be impact in all 35 Metro Council districts. This is truly a countywide plan. It is not a plan that puts the investments only in the urban core.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Yes.
Good morning.
Morning, Dave.
Thank you for that update. I understand that as part of this plan, there's going to be quite a bit of additional cross-town service as opposed to going down to the hub.
That's correct.
Will there be, or I guess maybe the question is, when will there be shuttle service from, say, park and rides to our venues? And will that be coordinated with events? Is that part of the initial phase?
So it's interesting, and I know from several years serving on the Nashville MTA Board of Directors, it's really challenging. The FTA has some constraints on what you can consider shuttle service. I think we're working with WEGO and NDOT jointly and federal partners to make sure that those crosstown links can offer things like the 77, which is now serving Geodis, that multiple routes in and around downtown. If you look at the program implementation, there should be a community transit center on the East Bank for that footprint, serving not just River North, but also the stadium footprint. And then ideally a community transit center south of Broadway, so that you could imagine being at the Global Mall site where there would be another potential community transit center in Southeast, and being able to take a high capacity route all the way in around downtown and across the river, so that you have effectively an express service that could run all the way from the airport and get you to the East Bank in very short order. And that would take advantage of infrastructure improvements and modernized vehicles, modernized signals. Having a shuttle from a park and ride specifically to a venue is more likely to be incorporated into an overall system improvement. But that's why those having multiple things where you're not just sending people into downtown, especially during rush hour, but able to go from Antioch to Green Hills, or from north, where the Rip Patton Center is, over to East Nashville across the river without having to come into downtown, just frees up the system. Turning from an antiquated hub and spoke model into a more distributed network lets us have more flexible service to serve all of the assets that you all interact with regularly.
Is the development of additional transit options something that this board can be helpful with as this program develops? Because certainly this venue in particular needs some support in that regard.
Right, and we have made slower than I would prefer, but steady progress as we have continued to put sidewalks on the ground, getting people from 8th Avenue all the way here, continue to interact with Nolensville, but we know there is still more work to do. I think for us, continue to keep our administration and Michael specifically engaged with where you all are seeing maybe the sharpest pain points for access, but also maybe the biggest opportunities as well. If there is something that, I guess what I would say is, if you look at this program, you look at the interactive elements, the things that are already there, we see November as the start of the next conversation, not the end of, hey, we did it, and so this is the only thing we'll ever do. If it's not on there, it'll never happen. This doesn't fully replace NDOT's overall approach. It doesn't say we're not going to put sidewalks out there in the city that aren't in this program. What it says is we know we can commit over the long term to the elements of this program and then still make great decisions as a community with our regular operating and capital process.
Yes, Kim?
Hi, Mayor.
Morning.
Thank you for coming. So we've got to get to November and be successful. What is the biggest challenge in that, and what can this body and as members of the community, what can we do to help make sure that we get the votes in November?
Yeah, I think today's a great example. Just continue to have conversations as you interact with teams, as you interact with the community. Just keep having this conversation. We know this will be a high turnout election because it is a state and federal election with a presidential race on the top of the ticket as well. This means there will be a lot of people voting. And I think for us, our goal as an administration is to make sure that voters have all the information, that they know that it's on the ballot. They know what we're proposing. They know what the proposed cost is. They know why we're doing it. And I think if you all after today continue to have questions, don't just sit on those, make sure we have it. So again, you can stay in touch with what's going on, find those maps at nashville.gov/transit, but anybody at any time can send us questions, concerns, ideas at transit@nashville.gov. But I'd say just keep having the conversation and make sure that everybody that the Sports Authority is interacting with understands why this is also important for the business we do with sports as a city.
Thank you. Any additional questions? If not, just want to say thank you. We're excited. Did you have a question?
I did have.
Yes, please.
Morning.
One of our, I'll bring up, you and I were coming into the building, one of the meetings, and I didn't know that you were going to be the mayor, so I might have shared some things with you that I did. But I did anyway. But one of the things that come up constantly is once you get to a lot of these facilities that we have been able to build for the city, it takes you forever to get home. And a lot of that has been, some of that has been put back to the quality of the roads. I should not have to drive down Dickerson Road and dodge a hole in the street on a regular basis. I know they don't last forever, but that transit adjustment that you're talking about making, will that include it?
So it won't necessarily affect our repaving schedule, but a lot of the infrastructure upgrades will mean that corridors get a full treatment. And so, for instance, if you're looking at what's happening already in East Nashville, where they're doing major water projects, as NDOT comes along after that, it's going to mean much better roadways, but that's a part of what NDOT and water are already coordinating. This will mean a lot of those corridors, those 54 miles, do get significant treatment. But I'll say it this way, our NDOT crews are doing an incredible job with pothole recovery since winter weather this January. They filled more than 20,000 potholes. They are working constantly to do it. I think one of our challenges is, and this will be something that requires constant coordination with our partners at TDOT, we fill potholes on local roads, and TDOT is responsible for state routes and highways like the interstates, like Briley Parkway, like Ellington, and we're still working to accelerate the opportunity to have those roadways be as well maintained as our local roads. And Michael, I don't know if you want to add anything about implementation.
Yeah, so those 54 miles of all access corridors, on many of those miles, it'll be a complete street reconstruction. So those highways were widened back in the 60s and 70s and really haven't been touched since then. So it's our opportunity to really modernize the street for how we move around today. And so Dickerson's a really good example of it being widened, no sidewalks in place. Stormwater's a major issue in any rain through there, and that's our opportunity to address all of that through this program.
So you'll get some improvements, but I'll say it this way. This isn't going to be like a pothole fund, but it is going to result in much better roadways.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. As you can see, this is clearly a topic that there's a lot of interest, so we appreciate your time today.
Indeed.
Thank
Glad
you.
to be with you. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, we will hear from our Executive Director, Monica Faulknerson.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. And Mayor, thank you for joining us today. Come back anytime. You have the agenda in front of you. Following my report, we'll have a report from the Personnel Committee and then also receive some recommendations from the Finance Committee, which met earlier this morning. Then we'll move into stadium reports from the Titans and also the authority's construction representative. And then finally, we'll dive into the East Bank with a presentation from Bob Mendez, Metro Chief Development Officer. Are there any questions about the agenda? So as usual, our agenda is full. And so while I could go on and on, I will keep it very brief. And I really just want to highlight one thing. And I think most of you know that in May, we had the opportunity, we being our staff, to attend the Convention, Sports, and Entertainment Facilities Conference in Las Vegas. It was a great conference. James Weaver, Jahari Matthews from the Titans, Metro Planning Director Lucy Kempf, and I sat on a panel that was moderated by Darden Copeland of Calvert Street, and really just discussed the Titan Stadium deal and some of the things, not all, but some of the things that had to fall in place to get the approval. And it was really well received, I think, by the conference attendees, and those of us on the panel had a good time and really just enjoyed getting to show off Nashville and just talk about that project. And so this was really the first time our entire staff has gotten to go to that conference, and I think it was a really important educational opportunity for them. And so I just want to thank you all for the support and just giving them the chance to also meet and network with people around the country who work in similar spaces. Are there any questions? That's all from me.
Great. Thank you, Monica. And I, too, am happy that our team was able to participate in that. I think that we have to pour into our staff and help develop them, so I think that was a great opportunity. I'm sure you all represented us well.
It was a good conference. Thank you.
Okay, next, Director Deering will give us our personnel report.
Yes, Madam Chair, in this position, sometimes we don't deal with things that's very pleasant, but I got to tell you, the Personnel Committee met on Wednesday, June the 12th, the annual evaluation of the authority's executive director, and what a pleasure that was. The committee is pleased with the Director of Polk Knoxton's performance, how she communicates and how she leads the board and staff. She has good institutional knowledge and relationships with our facility partners, which is very important to this authority, our metro departments, the mayor's office, and the council. And she represents us well in the community, whether speaking to groups or speaking to members of the media. In addition to her performance over the past year, we discussed continuing education opportunities for the board and how we can decrease the learning curve for our new members that come onto the board. The committee recommends approval of a salary increase commensurate with what Metro employees will receive in the FY25 budget, which we know now is 4% cost of living and a 3% merit increase for 7%. The board will consider a resolution approving salary updates for director and staff during the Finance Committee report. Madam Chair, if there are no questions, that concludes my report, and I move for adoption.
Great, thank you. So, are there any questions or comments for Director Deering? If not, we're going to pause that and we're going to take that vote up under the Finance Committee. Okay? So, with that in mind, I thank you for the report, Director Deering, and we're going to ask Chair of the Finance Committee, Dan Hogan, to take the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. The Finance Committee met this morning where we approved the February 27th meeting minutes and then considered two resolutions. The first resolution authorizes, as Director Deering was just mentioning, salary updates for the executive director, as well as the rest of the team, Melissa and Bob. The amount of the increase will mirror the fiscal 25 Metro budget, which is a 4% cost of living adjustment, as well as a 3% merit increase. The Personnel Committee recommends approval of these increases, as do Metro Finance. Ms. Wells and Mr. Lackey's salaries are not funded by Metro, so this is one important point we need to be aware of. So the Sports Authority needs to fund their increases. And then lastly, the resolution authorizes the funding of parking for Sports Authority venue from the general fund for our staff. So for the year, that's about an $8,000 authorization. The Finance Committee does recommend approval of the resolution, and I would go ahead and make a motion for adoption.
Great. Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded that we consider a resolution authorizing and approving salary updates and staff parking expenses for fiscal year 2025. Is there any discussion, any questions, comments?
I'll make a comment just to say And it was expressed in the personnel committee meeting that we really appreciate the staff. You all do a phenomenal job. I think we try to express that as often as possible. I'm trying to make some eye connection here. There you go, Melissa and Valda and Brandon, wherever you all are. So thank you all, because you all make this really possible for this volunteer opportunity that we have. So I'm appreciative.
Great. Any other comments? A motion and a second on the table. All in favor of signifying yes, say aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. And that motion passes. Thank you.
We also considered a resolution approving the expenditure of funds to meet our obligation to maintain and comply with stormwater control measures at First Horizon Park. Currently, we have a water control unit that needs to be repaired, and the bioretention and rain garden areas require weeding and ongoing maintenance throughout the baseball season. So staff solicited bids for both projects, and we are requesting funding in the amount of $7,500. Matthew Lockhart from Metro Water and Doug Scopel can answer any questions if we have them. But the Finance Committee also moves for approval of these expenditures as well, and I would make that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on a resolution approving the expenditure of funds related to continuing obligations to maintain and comply with stormwater control measures at First Horizon Park. Any discussion? Any questions about that? If not, all in favor of approving say aye. Aye. Opposers, nay, and the motion passes.
That concludes my report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Hogan. Next on our agenda, we're going to ask Adolfo Birch with the Titans to come up and give us his update.
Thank you again for having us here to be able to give you some updates on the current status of the project. I think the materials from our report are they're in your material packet. I'm not sure which tab, but
Behind tab 6.
tab 6. Thank you. But I do want to highlight just a few points from that. I'll try to be brief. But the main thing is, looking back, the work on this project has continued to focus on the construction document design and pre-construction services end, certainly together with the facilitating the whole transition to the coming group to oversee the day-to-day going forward. We are working currently through the 100% design development estimate package, obviously with the view toward trying to stay on budget. The GMP set was issued on the 31st of May. There is an addendum that will be issued presumably before the end of this month that will cover some adjustments for the new F&B concessionaire. Work on that, I think we'll hear a little bit more about this later, but work on the collaborative end between the South Plaza, South 2nd Street, and the pump station, those are all going well. The pump station construction, we believe the details have been worked out, and I think that construction is expected to start in November. On the excavation end, and I would encourage everybody to look at the photos that are included in our report to give you a better sense of what the site looks like. But excavation at this point is roughly 50% done. And in fact, I think beginning about a week ago or so, we have started, the pillars have started going in, piers, have started going in, and I think we're at about 30% of those in now as well. So all of that's proceeding apace and even potentially ahead of where it was expected. The Titanstown, I talked about this the last time. Titanstown is the trailer complex. That is in progress. A lot of uses are already up and running, particularly for the admin and for the what they call the community diversity in, which is the workforce training and safety training. And those are being handled on site at the Titans Town, which is pretty exciting. We expect that the remainder of the trailers, including Metros and the Titans pieces, will be in, I believe, within the next several weeks or a month or so. The Colonial Pipeline, which we've talked about a lot, I am proud to report that that is done. So we will now, they're just going back. TBA has to pull up the old piping, and then also Colonial is going to go back and start trying to sort of refurbish the areas that they had to address during the construction and reinstallation. The only other thing I might mention on this part is that the big package, we call it, package number 5, TBA sent that out on June the 3rd. And in connection with that project or that particular package, we've been doing a number of outreach events. We hosted one at our facility on June 6th. We had probably 150 firms and people represented, both primes and subs, to understand kind of the nature of the package, what was potentially in it, but also importantly to network and talk amongst each other to try to identify opportunities that were available. We had a virtual one, or I should say TBA had a virtual one the following day that they opened up, to anyone who could get in on the virtual site. And I am leaving here today to go to one that we've scheduled for Memphis, because it was important to the parties that we do demonstrate a degree of outreach in areas outside of Nashville. So we have one scheduled in Memphis today and one scheduled in Knoxville for next week. And obviously, as the bid packages come back and take shape, there'll be continued outreach to try to really maximize on our end the amount of participation that's possible, and that's something that was top of mind when we began the project, and it's something that will continue.
Ask a question.
Yes.
The virtual meetings, were those recorded? Is that something that if someone missed it, they could watch later?
I want to say yes, but if I can look around and get a thumbs up or a no on that. I believe they were recorded. I will say, even if not, we plan to have multiple ones, so there'll certainly be opportunities if people need to get the information. And that's, of course, in addition to the NashvilleStadiumConstruction.com website, which lays out, everything with respect to the opportunities that are available, particularly for small businesses or DBE-related businesses. What else? Let's see. I guess on that point, our communication with the Business Assistance Office and the relevant parties has remained strong. We are constantly meeting and talking to identify all of the opportunities, all of the capacity, and the other indicators that will help us drive the highest degree of participation we can on the DBE end. Those have been working really well, and we expect those to continue. We also are taking the information that we are gathering from outreach events and interest on the website, et cetera, to create larger databases to then push all the information that we retain out to anyone who has expressed an interest in any of those mechanisms. On the workforce end, the TC2, which is the workforce program that the TBA group has put together, is having its second cohort meeting now. The first cohort met and advanced through the program, graduated. There were 6 participants in that first cohort. They all were placed with immediate jobs, either with Turner or with Jones Brothers, which is one of the contractors that's handling a portion of the work on the site now. This new cohort is geared toward graduating high school seniors. So it's a group of 15 of them, and they will go through a similar program, and at the end of which they will have the opportunity to interview and potentially be placed for jobs on the project as well. So the expectation of all involved is that these cohorts and these training programs will be regular. When one ends, the next will begin over the life of the project. So we really have high hopes for the impact that this program can have on families and individuals who are able to participate in it and see the benefits of what this project can do for them and their families. I will just, state for the record that the project to date through at least May of this year has spent $152,520,124. The pay application for April came in at $12,503 or $503,768. And importantly, everything remains on track for the Q1 2027 projected opening. I do want to highlight it before I end, two small things, or shouldn't say small, but two things on our One Community project plan. We have, in particular on that program, we've just started an adult cohort of the project destined sports venue and development program that we had mentioned earlier, I believe. That program is going to have 25 working professional adults who will learn about sports venue development, learn about sports venue design and construction, utilizing the current site as its model. It will also allow them to network with each other, to learn about the development of small business, minority businesses, to network. And that's really one of the things that was really important to us as we started to conceive this project, the idea to be able to use the project itself as a means for teaching, as a means for providing potential future opportunities for others. And this project and this particular cohort is highly reflective of that. So that is expected to get underway soon, and we're very proud of what we believe this is going to be able to do for that community. And finally, I would just say we, on the Tennessee State end of things, looking specifically at our Tennessee State benefactor over there, we just hosted the second Maymester, our second Maymester program on the introduction to sports and professional sports leagues for the TSU students who are part of the Human Performance and Sports Sciences department. We had them in for a week to hear all aspects about the sports leagues, the sports industries, and how they work. They heard from leadership, they heard from ticketing, they heard from any aspect of our organization that helps to drive what the sports industry and what a sports league business operation looks like. It's very well received again, and we plan to continue that as part of the overall One Community package that we've kind of put together to support the project. So with that, I guess I should also mention, you also have been given a CapEx report, and it's somewhat minimal, but I do want to confirm that everything that was put forward is squarely within the envision of the amended lease to include safety items and other items that require basic functioning of the stadium. So with that, I'll try to stop and see if there are any questions.
Questions for Adolfo? Yes, ma'am.
So, Adolfo, I'm going to ask you to just really expand on that. I do think it's important that we hear about the progress, the additions and updates to the completed, ongoing, and anticipated capital projects, because we are very focused on the new stadium, but we want to make sure that we understand as a board how things are moving and what's being done at the current stadium. So if you wouldn't mind just to go through.
Sure.
that real
If
quick.
I might get your indulgence to bring up Shannon Myers, our CFO, she's certainly much more well-versed in exactly what's been going on with respect to the capital improvements.
Thank you, Monica. Let's see. Tab 6. Just with the agenda being so full this week, wanted to give time, but there were 2 items added to the anticipated items list this past month. Security Command Center, our Security Command Center, the workstations in that Security Command Center have reached their useful life, so we are replacing all of those. And then are looking to purchase 1 used golf cart to help with the transportation that is needed moving around the construction site for our patrons. So those were the only 2 items there added on the anticipated items list. The other items highlighted in red under ongoing and completed, those are projects that we previously communicated to you all. We're just, they're moving up the chart as they are getting completed. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Shannon?
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you for that update.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I didn't have a question for Shannon. You need to
Okay,
go?
do you have a question for Adolfo?
Yeah, I just wanted to say.
He thought he could get away.
Yeah. I'm just making a comment. You know, this is really big, important work, and this is a feel-good moment because I've seen you all out in the community working. Kudos on the TSU piece. That's always a special spot for me. But I know they're not represented in the room. They're obviously in Memphis right now, I believe. But wanted to give kudos to TBA. Because I did have an opportunity to pop into that event back in April. I think I'm the Metro Sports Authority representative that they put in their report. But the house was packed, the energy was great, and it was a lot of faces in the room looking hopeful. And so I just wanted to send them some flowers, some kudos, and say keep up the great work. I love to see that type of stuff happening out here.
Awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we'd like to invite Heather Hill with Cummings Management Group to give us a project management update. Good morning, Heather.
Morning. I've also asked Carol Greenlee to come up with me just in case there's any questions or anything we want to go over in her scope. So I've got a report, and I actually have a couple of slides as well, but I have a report in your binders that I'll kind of go through, but I really want to focus on what this summer looks like. There is a huge milestone coming in the Titans funding agreement, with for the project, and it is 10-1. And so I want to talk through what that means and what this summer looks like. You've heard from the Titans, a lot of outreach events, a lot of bid packages, GMP, a lot of alphabet soup. So I want to kind of dive into and walk you guys through the timeline of the summer, and then I'll also speak on a few other things. But that's really where our focus is. As it was mentioned, the 50% construction documents came out on May 31st. That is the set of plans that the Titans, TBA, those folks are pricing that will kind of go into this overall budget and overall forecast. So what happens with that is they go out, they get all these bids, and they come back to us. And by 10-1, we need to have everything settled out so you folks sometime in early to mid-September can vote and say, yeah, we're on the right path and it's time to put all the money in and fund as per the agreement. So here's what kind of has to happen for that. So the 50% construction document set we just talked about, it went out. TBA is working through that set with their subcontractors, and anyone else that's needed there to put together not only the dollars of the project, but the schedule, right? We've still got our eyeball on that 2027 date. They're looking at any of the exhibits and things like that that we attach to contracts. So one in particular is clarifications and qualifications. And what my team's looking at is, are we getting what we expect to get, right? Not only are they bidding the construction documents, which we are reviewing and ensuring are what we, Nashville Sports Authority, everybody wants, but also is the contractor adhering to that, or is it somehow otherwise taken care of? So that's what's going on. There will be different steps, and I think if we can go to the next slide, or is that me to do? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I laid out this kind of timeline. So as we said, 5/31, the documents come out. We had their heads down, working with their contractors, getting pricing, getting everything in a row to come to the table and provide the Titans. This is TBA to the Titans by July 16th, a first draft of their dollars, their schedule, all of the parts and pieces to what makes up the guaranteed maximum price, the GMP contract. We will get a copy of that as well. The only way this works is if this is a transparent, open relationship. I'm here to report the Titans and Icon have been great at that regard, and we all have to be, because we would never make this timeline work. The next kind of step in this is that mid-August Sports Authority meeting, where I'll be sitting in front of you all again, telling you how hopefully great everything is going. But understand, as you can imagine, a $1.5 billion hard cost, which would be the TBA contract piece. There's a lot of information there to get through and for us to vet out. But the hope is we've had that July 16th. We're getting here, we're giving you guys an update, then not a few days later, we get the second draft from them. So any updates, I know there was speak of an addendum coming out at the end of this month. That will most likely inform that draft on August 19th. There just wouldn't be time in 2 weeks to get that in the first draft, or we're not expecting it. So that second draft comes August 19th. We're taking a look at it. We're diving into it, providing comments, questions, working through it with them. And then at the end of August is when we expect the Titans to come to us and say, this is what we believe is the overall budget. This is what we want the Sports Authority to approve. So then, as you can imagine, you guys need time with it as well before you vote on it. We need to take a look at it. So that first week, second week in September is going to be critical in us flipping that around. That's why I'm saying the transparency of the process throughout the summer has to happen. And again, that is what's happening, but it has to happen for us all to be on the same page come that September board meeting. So you guys have something you're comfortable with. I have something comfortable with. I'm comfortable enough with it to say, guys, this is what I think is the right thing. And we're pushing a button October 1, and we're staying on the milestones of the agreement. So I've just thrown a lot of things out there. I'm happy to take any questions now, or I can keep going.
So essentially, we'll have about 3 weeks in a perfect world.
It's probably going to be 2, and there's Labor Day in there. So, and it's across summer vacations and everything as well. So we're, the Titans, the Icon team, TBA, everybody is well aware of the time crunch, and that is why it's our relationship's going to matter and the transparency through the summer. Yes. All right, I'll keep chugging. So again, we'll be talking a lot throughout this summer. We'll be doing a lot of things behind the scenes but reporting to you all every step of the way so that we're all ready to meet that October 1st deadline. You'll hear a little more about this maybe in the East Bank report to follow, but there are some items, and we're looking at the design holistically, inside the building, outside the building. We want to ensure, and I know the Titans do too, they're going to maintain this thing. We all want to make sure we're getting the appropriate project built, and we're left with a stadium we're all very proud of. So we're looking at the inside and the outside of the building. Some of the exterior things, you know, we've talked about transit, we've talked about how we get around a little bit. That's a very key point of what's happening over in the East Bank, along with some other things. But there are about 7 items, and that's what you'll see in the report. Those have kind of bubbled to the top as a priority for all of us, including the Titans, our team, East Bank team, and the mayor's office. Just to kind of give one, I think Adolfo spoke about one, the South Plaza. We've got the $1 billion Titans stadium. We've got Fallon up next to them. Lots of money there. There's this nice South Plaza that's going to set between them. So it's very important to all of us that we get that right. And that feels like it's a public area, because it is, but it also is a programmable area. So that's just one of those things. We're also talking about what happens along 2nd Street, which is kind of the front door, if you will, to the stadium, and how we are moving people around in and out of the stadium, as well as making that whole area just a great place to be and feel on game days, on concert days, and then on non-event days as well. That's definitely a priority. So you'll see a little more information on that in the report. The next thing we're working on is financials. So working with Metro Finance, ensuring that the information and the documentation that's coming across is going is good information. It has everything that Metro Finance needs. Until we get to that October 1st date, we're kind of just a reviewer. But obviously, when October comes, we're all very heavily invested in ensuring that all of the documentation and everything like that is correct, backup is correct, and everybody understands the dollars that are going into the project to build it. And then the last thing I'll touch on is the DBE. You've heard about the outreach and some of the things that Titans are doing, and obviously a lot of bid packages are going out. They're doing a great job of getting out there. What we're now focused on, not that focus is lacking, that still is happening, but that is well underway. What we're working intently on is making sure we are able to report correctly, and making sure us in the BAO, the Titans, everybody's on the same page. So lots of meetings. Appreciate the time the BAO and those folks are giving us to ensure that the actuals, right now that we're forecasting a lot of things, but we're working towards getting those actual numbers and be able to report good information. And that concludes the topics I was going to bring up. Any questions?
Yes, any questions?
Just one. Could you speak a little bit about the access to the East Bank area that we refer to on a regular basis for people who already live there? I've heard questions and I didn't have answers for them. How can I get in and out once you get started on that side?
Okay, there's going to be a lot. I think you might hear a little more when the East Bank team presents here in a moment. But I know that is very high on the list of understanding how everybody's going to move around there. Obviously, this development doesn't end with Titans. It continues, and so it will be ever evolving over there. But definitely a high priority to make sure people can move from all sides of the building, not just from the Broadway side.
So I want to thank you, Heather. I think that was a really great report, and I think that's very helpful to the board. I do want to just point to the September special called meeting. And really, I think what it's going to be is we're going to probably just move the September meeting up 1 week. I don't think we need 2 meetings, but in order to make sure that we have the opportunity to vote and get everything done before the October 1 funding release date, it's going to require that we meet a week early. So we'll continue to communicate through all of that, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and there'll be more information.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Heather. I think we all probably stressed out when we saw the schedule to funding chart, but I think it's helpful. I'm not sure it's helpful this morning, but I think it will be helpful. And it's great to see you back with us, Carol, so it's great to see you. Thank you so much for that update, and we'll look forward to hearing more.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have Bob Mendez Metro Chief Development Officer and the First Bank team here to provide us an update on the East Bank, its relationship with the new stadium, and kind of what we can anticipate from this project as the board. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, and I'm joined by Jeff Oldham. You all know Jeff. Let me, before we get going, just logistics. Is 12 a hard stop? Either way is fine.
It's not a hard stop.
Okay.
We may lose one or two, but we're good.
All right, and then we'll figure out if I can use this. We planned this presentation to come after Heather, and we started talking about this with Heather and Monica back in the beginning of May, because somewhere around end of April, beginning of May, we started realizing sort of the enormity of the October 1 pending deadline, where as sort of laying on thick today in the deal documents, the funding is done by October 1 and everybody's got their money in, or it's over. And nobody wants that. Everybody wants the funding in. And to get the funding formally in under the documents, the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, has to be approved by you all. And you just heard the amount of work that's going into that. And so we started talking about this, and Monica suggested that we probably should all have a presentation at this meeting to give you all sort of the frame of reference about what's coming up toward the end of the summer. And then the other thing that we wanted to blend in the mix is we've got a unique circumstance here that I think all parts of Metro and the department level is having to have a shift in perspective, in that for as long as we've had football on the East Bank, there's only one thing that matters on the East Bank: a football stadium. And we're shifting to now, this will be one of several multi-billion-dollar projects immediately next to each other. And for a lot of it, Metro is Metro's neighbor. The football stadium is Metro's, and the Fallon development immediately next door is Metro's. And so whereas in other places, the stadium is the thing, here, stadium needs to fit with Metro's land next door. And so with the South Plaza, you've heard about a couple times, part of, and everybody's working fantastically in good faith. It's just big stuff that's hard stuff. For when a game's not going on, we don't want Metro as owner, doesn't want it so that if you're in the South Plaza, you know exactly whether you're in Titans-controlled property or Fallon-controlled property. We want it to be a porous enough space where somebody could be on one foot of the line or the 1 foot on the other side of the line and feel like I'm in this plaza, I'm in this open space. And so we've really appreciated the Titans on behalf of Metro and Fallon on behalf of Metro working together to make sure that our entire property works best for the public. And so those are the two things that we're trying to push on today, is to help explain the shift in perspective that Metro is the only neighbor to this property and vice versa, and to talk about the open issues as we lead up to the big deadline in October. So with that, we'll find out whether I can use this thing. Oh, the big arrow in the middle. Good. Super. So circling back to, you all have probably seen this. This is from the planning department a couple of years ago, the vision plan for the East Bank. This is what we refer to as the East Bank. And it's important to think about scale. Walking from one end of this to the other would be the equivalent of walking from the Bridgestone Arena to the Parthenon. That's the size of this. There are currently 0 full-time residents. In here, there are no homes, there's no apartments, there's no condos, there are no residents. And You guys are familiar with this. And then this is a slide that we've just started using in the last few weeks that shows we're going from a vision document a couple years ago to now stuff is happening. On the far left is Oracle. The crosshatch purple in the middle, Station East, is a private 18-acre development at the old TA truck stop. They're intending to build $2.4 billion worth of mixed-use development there, and it's immediately across James Robertson Parkway from Metro-owned land. And then you all are very familiar with the purple, shades of purple in the middle are all the Metro land with the new football stadium in the red box. And this accentuates how Metro is the neighbor for Metro here. This next slide is a rendering from the planning department that shows the 3 multi-billion-dollar projects that fit all in the same space. The Titan Stadium on Metro land, the orange up in the corner is the privately owned Station East. Everything else is Metro-owned land that we recently got a development agreement approved through the Metro Council. And again, this accentuates how for the first time ever in Metro's history, we've got multiple multi-billion-dollar projects all owned by the city immediately next to each other. Very quickly, for the 30 acres, this is a summary of the master plan. The idea is to have this be a neighborhood instead of a sea of parking lots. And to get neighborhood, we need residents. In order to get residents, we need housing units. If y'all have been to stadiums, urban stadiums in other cities, think Wrigley Field. If you're within eyesight of the stadium on game day, it's a party. You got people having a good time before and after the games. But if you take a 1.5 block walk in any direction, you're in the middle of a neighborhood. You're not in the party zone anymore. We intend to have this be a neighborhood once you get a block or two away from the football stadium. And the Titans have been great in working with us and the planning department in Fallon to make it so we get everything we need for the football stadium, but surrounded by an actual neighborhood with actual Nashvillians in it. We've leaned pretty hard on affordability. Some 45% of the minimum number of units will be affordable, ranging from deeply affordable to about 80% of area median income. We're going to prohibit short-term rentals so the area can't just be rented out on weekends for big events. We're going to have a daycare in the building that's identified as Parcel G. It'll be ground floor retail throughout all the buildings. The bars, through the zoning code, we're going to try to have it so bars can be concentrated within eyesight of the football stadium, but if you get off in the neighborhood, you won't be able to have concentrations of bars to try to keep Broadway to be Broadway and this be more of a neighborhood. We would like to have office space eventually. Right now, the market is not conducive to that. And we're also going to have some limitations on total number of hotel rooms. If y'all think about downtown, if you walk down Broadway, we all feel like, wow, this is about 98% tourist. But if you go to the Gulch, you feel a different balance where there's clearly still tourists there, but there are people walking their dog, going to get coffee, headed to yoga, going to work. We're aiming for the East Bank to have at least as good a mix of neighbors as the Gulch does, hopefully a little heavier toward the neighbor side. Again, all aiming at having neighborhood. This next slide shows more specifically how on top of Metro is on top of Metro here, because everybody that's listed there, Titans, Fallon, and TPAC, will all be putting in some the infrastructure on their particular color-coded area. And so you can see how Titans and Fallon need to be working closely together on their space. And again, this is just laying on thick the idea of the neighbor here is Metro. And so with y'all being the Metro Sports Authority, for the last 25 years, it's been stadium only, and now we have to think about it in terms of how does our stadium fit in with our neighborhood that we're trying to build. This slide is the same thing that Heather had. She had a much prettier slide, but this is the same information about the timing. One thing that I want to get into in the next slides is, as hard as everybody is working on resolving open design issues and as cooperative as everybody is being, it's possible, and we need to plan for it, that we don't have all the design issues worked out by the time that y'all are asked to approve the guaranteed maximum price. And for some things, it won't matter. You know, if people are down to debating whether it should be a green planter or a blue planter, that's not going to make a difference on cost. There are a couple of the open items that we have that we believe will be worked out, but may make a difference on cost. And we want to, and this is where Jeff and the legal teams have been very helpful, we're trying to work it through so that if we get to time for your approval in September, if there's an open design issue that may be material to cost, we want to get you all enough information where you can approve the GMP, maybe with some alternatives, and let the parties continue to work on the design issues. And so that's the rest of the slides, to just walk you through some examples of what we're talking about so you can visualize them. This is the list. I know Heather had the exact same list in her report, maybe in a different order. You should know that we're meeting very frequently with Heather's team because we're trying to make sure that between Monica and her staff, Heather, the Titans, Fallon, our pile of respective lawyers who will tell us what we actually have to do in the legal documents, that we don't have any pockets of greater information and pockets of lower information. We're working really hard to have this be shared information so we can get the end product to be what it needs to be. And I'll go through these next slides, just give you some idea of what we're talking about on some of these specific issues. For the South Plaza, this depicts the border, the stadium's at the top, the plaza's down below, and that'll effectively be the borderline between what Fallon, a hotel that they'll build on behalf of Metro, where a hotel will be sort of below the image here, and we need to work through how that plaza works for everybody. Again, everybody's working well together, but we need to figure out a way that the stadium works, the plaza works, and it feels like a unified space. We also have an ongoing issue where the security perimeter suggested by the NFL, which is 100 feet, would cover the entirety of Interstate Drive, which is the only north-south road we have on the East Bank, and we need that open for life safety issues, for interstate access issues, and trying to hammer out how we mesh up preferred security perimeter from the NFL with what we can do with our only north-south road in the area is an open question. And this is one where different solutions might have different prices. On South Street, what's shown here on the image on the side is entrance to get into the stadium below grade for vehicles. Will be on the drawings offset a little bit from a street that we have, and working through getting that aligned and exactly how that works on game days when we'll have pedestrians going through there. Again, we believe all of these are workable, but it's an example of an open issue where we're getting to the point where moving a driveway or changing how a driveway works becomes material, but also changing how a road works is material too, and that's something we're working through. I think y'all know that South 2nd Street is anticipated to be closed on all event days to allow pedestrians to go across it. And for that, think of 5th Avenue downtown between the Omni and the Convention Center. That's a brick paved road. There aren't curbs there. So it's meant to be able to be closed so people can get across and have it feel like one space. We're wanting South 2nd Street to be the same way because it will be closed on event days. And so trying to work out between the folks designing the stadium and our NDOT folks about how we have a functioning road with functioning sidewalks and bikeways, but also have it be a main way in and out of the stadium for event days is a work in progress still. There's security features that are, there's a fine line apparently I've learned between having effective safety features and blocking pedestrians and trying to find the balance between appropriate security but still letting people get in and out is an issue that's still being discussed by everybody. And then this planning department has such awesome software. This is a view of what the stadium would look like all the way from 10th and Fatherland. So that's pretty far away, but it's a direct view on the stadium. And our planning department has been working to understand what it's going to look like from different angles. And the football team's design folks have been working iteratively with our planning folks to make sure that this ends up being something we're all happy with. And Heather and her team are in the loop to sort of bird dog the status and make sure that it moves forward. So that is a lot. The two takeaways are the things I started with. One of my jobs is to help shift perspectives in Metro that we are Metro is Metro's neighbor, and we've got $2 billion projects side by side that have to coexist. And the other is just to let you all know that, like you'd expect with a project this big, there's some pretty substantial design things that are still underway that everybody's working in good faith. We're working really hard to get them all resolved by the end of the summer. Maybe won't get there, and let you know we're planning for that. Jeff, do you want to add anything about how we might handle or where we're at in figuring out how to handle issues that might be open by the end of the summer?
Sure. And I'll try not to get down in the weeds because you can quickly get there. There was this concept of a funding release date that Bob alluded to, 10/1/24. And what we said to bondholders is by 10/1/24, we've got to come to you with a building that is capable of delivering the activation and the revenues that we told you, bondholders, and that everybody has come with enough money to fund that building. That's 10/1/24. And so by that time, we've got to get the GMP, and we've got to confirm that the Titans have their funding in place. Your funding, the state's funding is already in place. The Titans funding piece, we've been at that since last August. It is that's going well. So no issues there. On the GMP, I guess what I would say, to Bob's presentation is, the legal folks are of a mind that we can get to a GMP that satisfies the funding release date, but that still has a few, is it A or is it B on certain design issues, as long as either way you solve it, the building will work, and either way you solve it, their money with our money will pay for it. And so if that's what hopefully we don't have any design issues by the time we get to 10/1 or your meeting, let's say, in September. But if we do, we think we can memorialize an agreement that says approval with asterisks and funding good no matter what happens. That's sort of what will be coming to you in September.
Great. There are a lot of moving parts. I have one quick question, and I don't know if there's a current answer, but on the fallen piece where you talk about 45% low income to medium to low income, how do you get to that number? What does that look like for somebody realistically who could afford to live in those spaces?
Sure. So all our development milestones for Fallon are based on residential units because we want to build neighborhood. And so they've got a minimum commitment of 1,550 units. Of those, 695 would have different levels of affordability. And to break it down further, They are going to deliver to us 2 buildings that are all affordable units of 300 units each. And then those units in those buildings will range from 30% AMI, area median income, to 80% AMI. And AMI, I'm gathering from the head nods, is something that y'all know about. It's kind of technical, but it's based on federal census information. And right now, for a family of 4, the area median income statistic is $100,000 per year in income. It's different amounts for different size families. So a 30% AMI unit for a family of 4 would be affordable to families making $30,000 a year, and the 80% AMI units, if it were a family of 4, would be family income of $80,000. So that's the 2 300-unit all affordable buildings. And then any other building that has residential, a minimum of 10% of the units have to be affordable at the 80% AMI level. So we feel pretty good about 45%. We also got a commitment that they'll remain affordable for the full 99-year lease period. I sat through some weird conversations about, so it's 60 years from now, and the football stadium only has 10 years left because it's going to last a really long time, but not quite 100. There are a lot of conversation about how the neighborhood works on a 100-year time horizon, but we're excited about having that 99-year commitment on the affordability levels.
That sounds awesome. And I am one that I'm very content with the fact that you and Haley had a lot of the duplicate reports. That means you're on the same page, so that's good too. Any other questions, comments?
I have one question. This overview is excellent, thank you. I did have one question, I guess going back to what the mayor was presenting. Your analogy that this is, from the Parthenon to downtown, like that's a huge space. I don't think I had completely grasped that. I see the mobility hub here. What other integrated aspects of the transportation plan are part of this such that we can avoid access and egress problems for events and so on?
Yeah, several things. So I'll hit 3 things quickly. So you can see the mobility hub here. That will end up being right at the intersection of the East Bank Boulevard and James Robertson Parkway. And the intention is that when it's all built, people walking out of downtown will be able to either come on a pedestrian bridge that will go over East Bank Boulevard and avoid the traffic on that, and then into the plaza, into the stadium, or over Woodland, and they'd have to wait at a stoplight to cross East Bank Boulevard. But people coming to the area on mass transit would come into the mobility hub either on James Robertson or on East Bank Boulevard, and then you can see they'd have a short block walk to the stadium. And second, we've talked about, will be closed on all game events. So if you came into the mobility hub, you ought to be able to get into the football stadium without crossing a street that's got traffic on it. That is, that's going to take a minute to come into existence. We got to get through a football stadium. We got to get James Robertson down to grade. We have to build a mobility hub, et cetera. In the short term, we have started experimenting. We meaning the Metro government, WeGo, police, Titans, with the Morgan Wallen concert, and recently with CMAs, of instead of having our buses avoid the area like they traditionally do, to figure out how to get bus service through close to the stadium. And we're viewing it as we have several years worth of experimenting available to us before the new stadium is built, but there's no time like the present. And I think, well, our intention is that by trying to figure out, it's not all going to work when we're trying stuff out at first, but by experimenting, we'll be able to, each season that the Titans have got games in the current stadium, that we can begin to shift the perspective that buses are a way to get to the football stadium too. And it's going to be a work in progress. We're intent on experimenting enough while in the years we've got left before the new stadium is there and before all the parking lots are gone, that we're not just trying to make it up 5 years from now.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Bob, that orange building, Station East, is that the truck stop property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you all so much for that
Thank you.
report. I think we learned a lot, and Jeff, it's always great to see you. So this concludes our agenda. I'd like to thank our staff, Metro Legal and Finance, the Mayor's Office and East Bank team, and all of our facility partners for your participation today. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 18th at Bridgestone Arena. Any questions or comments? And if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. Consider yourselves dismissed. Thank you for being here. Bye.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.